So you want to get to the airlines. We've come to the right place because tonight here on my CFI Academy, I've got my good friend Jarrod Roberts. He's going to talk about his path from having no experience to becoming a first officer in a regional airline, coming right up. Hello, folks. Welcome to my CFI Academy. We have a really nice treat this evening. We have my friend Jarrod Roberts. He is a first officer, for a regional airline. I'd tell you, but then he'd have to kill me where he's working. But we're actually going to have a little bit of a conversation here about Jarrod's path, where he started and how he ended up where he is, and try to give you guys an idea of what it's going to be like for you and your path to get there. Obviously, this particular channel is about becoming a CFI. Most of us become CFIs because we do want to go further on in our career. So please welcome my friend Jarrod Roberts. Jarrod, welcome to the channel.
Hey, thanks for having me, Russ.
So a little bit of backstory. I know, I don't know why my microphone just went up all of a sudden. Let's turn it back down. I know Jarrod because I went to an academy to become a CFI, and Jarrod was actually one of my instructors. And we had a lot of fun together. I think the very first night that we were flying together was like right at dusk, and we were doing all kinds of commercial maneuvers. You remember that?
Yeah, it was a fun night. We did a bunch of we did all the demonstrated stalls, and then I believe that was the night. I think we were coming over the threshold there, and we could see down in the mall that's next to the airport. We could see the Christmas tree up through there. That was that night, right?
That was a night flight that we did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase here. So we actually ended up working together at the same flight school as CFIs, and I don't know why my mic keeps just jacking up its input. I'm trying to stop it, so I apologize for that. It just keeps going all the way up on its own. So we worked together as a CFI, and Jarrod and I also worked together in the CFI Academy at this particular flight school. And so Jarrod and I have known each other a while, but why don't you tell me what your path was? When did you start flying? What were your goals? Really just give us an idea of your whole path.
Sure, yeah. So I started flying in 2009. A little backtracking a little bit. I graduated high school in 2003. And when I got out of high school, I didn't really have much direction. I didn't have, really an idea of what I wanted to do for a career. But I always had like a love affair with aviation. My uncle was a pilot. I kind of grew up around like, little airports and stuff like that. When I would go visit him, I got to be a little hangar rat and hang around and, be like one of those little rugrats that runs around the hangar. And I had my little bike that I would track around the airport with and stuff. So I had a kind of a love affair from way back when, but I didn't really take it seriously until after high school. I didn't have my stuff together until after that. So I started a little bit out of high school. I started taking some college classes, and my plan was to get my associates and then, knock out all the core classes basically, and along the way try to figure out what I want to do with my life. So I started doing that, and then got my associates, and I was still kind of hanging out there trying to figure out what I was going to do. So I kind of got serious about it then. I was like, well, where could I see myself, doing a job that I love, that I could, excited to go to work every day, things like that, and not sit behind a desk. Number one, I just can't do that. So I started playing on Microsoft Flight Simulator a little bit. If you guys are familiar, I know Russ is an X-Plane guy. But we all love flight simulators. That's how a lot of people start getting into it. So it starts off like a video game, and then you get more serious about it. And then I started reading some books, and I found out that, hey, I actually really enjoy studying this. So I just kept reading and kept playing. And then eventually, a couple years went by, and I was like, I'm going to do this. So it was the only thing I would say that I've ever really enjoyed studying. I'm not a big schoolwork kind of guy, but I did enjoy studying systems and aerodynamics and things like that. So I just took off with it and ran. So in 2009, I got my private pilot license. I took out loans along the way, and I got my instrument license or instrument rating maybe 6 months after. And then I took a little time off because I ran out of money, and got more money and came in and did a commercial So I finished up commercial, and then more life happened, ran out of money again, and then I had a baby, so I ran out of more money. So eventually I got to the CFI Academy at the airport that me and Russ flew together at, and went through that, got CFI, and worked for about a year and a half there, and got my 1,500 hours and came to the regional airlines. And now I still do CFI on the side because, a lot of people get CFI as a stepping stone. And yes, for me, it was technically a stepping stone because I wanted to go do something else. I didn't want to instruct forever. It's just a kind of a grind of a lifestyle, but it is really fun. So I enjoyed it enough to keep doing it. So now I do both. I do a little bit of both. So that's where I'm at now.
Well, there you go. There is the story. So keeping the focus during that whole time frame is probably the hardest thing. I know it has been for you. My travels have been a lot longer than yours, right? I started flying in 2000, and then you and I met up, I think 2017, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but so what kept you laser focused during that time frame, and what was that process in your mind? How did you just keep moving forward?
So I would say, having the goal in sight, kind of, always wanting to get into that cockpit of that jet, and put on that uniform and go into fly a jet every day, fly passengers around, travel for work, and have a really cool view every day. Just keeping that motivation every day was really the way that kept bringing me back to it. Otherwise, because a lot of people don't get through everything, and it's not because they're not smart enough or they don't have the skill set. Typically it's because they run out of money, or they get sidetracked and life comes all around and you take a different path. So I would say just keeping that motivation in mind the whole time.
Yep, we all dig into our credit cards and loans to get it done because it's not a cheap thing, but the reward at the back end is typically totally worth it. So now you've been flying for about a year with the regional? Am I correct in that?
Almost 2 years now, actually.
2 years. It's been
2 years next month. Yeah.
2 years. So when are you going to move over to the left seat?
Everybody knows how last year went. It slowed everything down. I was pretty much on reserve the entire last year, which means I was on call, so I was sitting at home waiting to get called to fly. And actually, at one point, it was so slow that I didn't get called for 3 months, and I had to go and had to go get recurrent with landings. So I had to go get my 90-day landings in. That was the biggest stint of not flying that I've had since I started flying, really. After that year was over, then everybody knows how this year's kind of going. It's slowly started picking up, and then it was just off to the races, like 3 months ago or so. And now we're busting, TSA numbers from, the year before COVID and from 2019. So we're breaking records this year. So it's kind of crazy how quickly it came back. And you could tell a lot of the airlines weren't really ready for that, V-shaped recovery, like they called it, that they said wasn't going to happen. Everybody was trying to save money, and they were in, savings mode last year. And it's not something that can just spring back into action. People have to get retrained, requalified. They have to get crews back in seats before they can start hiring. And now that that's been going on, now the machine's back up and running. So now you've seen people get sucked out of flight schools as CFIs. 1,500-hour pilots are going back to the regionals, and the whole thing's moving again fast. So that put a little damper in it, but now my logbook is off to the races again. So I'm expecting to upgrade probably at the end of this year, if not early next year.
Great. So how many hours on average, now that things are getting healthy, are you putting in with the regional each month?
Right now, about 80 to 90 hours a month.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good amount of hours.
It's a good amount of hours. Is there a limit? They put a limit on you on that, right?
Yeah. So there's a and this will be a good student activity. You guys can go look up FAR 117. That's how 121 operations are regulated for duty time. And there's a set hours. There's a million of them. But you can go look up that regulation. It tells you how many per week, per month, per year, per this many hours. It's a long regulation, a long, lengthy list of numbers, but there is a limit on it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. So what would you say is the most interesting or most enjoyable part of your job now that you're there?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd say the challenge of it. At the beginning, I wasn't flying as much, and it was hard it's the hardest aircraft I've, tried to operate in my flying career, I guess you want to say. But it's going from a Cessna to a jet is a big jump. And it's not like it doesn't all translate. It's just hard to get it to translate, if that makes sense. The skills are still there. It's still an airplane. You still fly it like an airplane, but the learning curve is big. There's a lot of moving parts in there, a lot of more buttons and switches and procedures. Everything's really procedural at the airlines. So it's getting all that stuff, really procedurally down and set and feeling good about it. And now I feel like, after flying regularly, it's really come together. So, and I'm really enjoying that part of it is the challenge of just getting better at flying the airplane.
You're flying an Embraer?
A Bombardier / Mitsubishi.
Okay. CRJ?
Yeah, CRJ.
Which one? The 700?
We do all of them, but yes, when you get this, it's the type rating is called CL65, and that gets you qualified to fly the 200, 700, and 900. But I primarily fly the 700.
What's it, like 100-seater or something like that?
65, 70. It depends on the airline. But,
okay.
Yeah, around that range.
Gotcha. So, what's your favorite airport to fly into now that you're doing this? We all kind of have these airports that we dream of flying into. What is your favorite?
Gosh, one of my favorite approaches. I mean, if I tell you the one that's really my favorite, it's going to give away everything. But
it's going to give away everything.
My second favorite, Jackson Hole is really fun. Monterey, California was a really cool approach too. I really like that one. But gosh, there's so many that are fun. Out on the anything mountain is fun. It's just a pretty approach, or coast.
Okay, so your favorite approach, you guys are the only ones flying in there, so we would know who you are. So we can't talk about that one.
That's right.
That's funny. What kind of pointers do you have for people that are looking to go into the airline career? What are your thoughts or ideas that you could throw out there for people?
Sure. So it kind of depends on where you are right now. If you are 0 hours and you want to go do it, I'd say the first thing is, like we tell new students, is to go take a discovery flight and see if it's really for you. See if you enjoy it. If you're scared, if you get airsick really easy, just see if it's a fit. If you're already a student or you're already working on your ratings, your certificates, then I would say, just don't worry about the money, as hard as that sounds. Whatever way you can to push through everything and get to a CFI job or a skydiver or band or tow or whatever job you just get to a point where you can start making money flying, and you can start flying every day, and that's your job. Once you get to that point, really, I mean, you're not to the airlines yet if that's your goal, but I remember the first day I flew as a CFI, and it was the most hours I ever flew in one day. And at the end of that day, I was exhausted, but I went to bed with a big smile on my face. It was just that's when I felt like I really made it. Of course, the airline is a whole different level of that, but just get to that point and you'll love it. That'll be your job. You'll fly for money.
Well, as you know, and you've been pushing me, I'm at that 1,400 hour mark, and starting to look at applying to airlines. When do you think is a good time for people to start applying? Now, I still have to do, let's say, 13 hours of multi-time. They require 25, right? But what's your thought process on when should somebody say, okay, it's time to really think about applying?
It depends on where you're looking to go, because a lot of the places, the class dates are, months in advance. So getting on it earlier and talking to recruiters and things like that is a better idea. And even some airlines will let you become a cadet. Actually, I think every cadet program is like this when you become a CFI, because they know your hours are going to build up so quickly. You can already get a position at the company, a soft position, and you can start learning the culture, getting pilot mentors and things like that. So if it was me, and I went way back because I didn't do the cadet, programs, but if it was me and I went back and I wanted to do it again, I would say become a cadet at any airline that you're interested in, and start working on it that way, because then you're plugged in and exactly, you can talk to mentors. They can tell you exactly when to fly or when to apply. But if you're on your own and you're getting close to that time, like Russ is right now, I would say, around the 1,200 hour range, if you're just going for the regular unrestricted ATP, is probably a good starting point, because if you can get that 80, 90, 100 hours a month, if you really hustle and you have the load to do it, the student load or whatever job you're doing, if you have enough hours you can get that, then you'll get that time in time for your class date. Because if you get a class date 3 months out, you'll be done with your hours. So
I was with Air Wisconsin's trainee cadet program, but COVID wiped it out. So are those programs starting to be reinstituted now?
They are, yeah. And we're going to start seeing, I think, bonuses come back and all that kind of stuff, hiring bonuses, all the stuff, all the kind of incentives that we saw before, because like I said, just the recovery happened so quickly that the public demand is there and we don't have the supply of pilots right now. So we're back in that dip. I was talking about the pilot shortage. You guys have heard it a million times, I'm sure. And then when something like COVID happens, it's like, okay, yeah, where's the pilot shortage now? Well, here it is again.
Yeah, fast.
So these things happen. It's a cyclical industry. And, just eyes on the prize. Everybody who stayed training last year and didn't lose hope and kept faith is going to be rewarded this year with a brand new airline job, hopefully. So we will see a lot of those programs recover and come back, and recruiters come back, and that's already happening right now. So some of the airlines I know have started their cadet programs back up.
A number of the guys that were in my, I guess what you call class at Air Wisconsin, we all stay in touch, and group me. And a number of them are starting to do ATP, CTP courses now. They've been hired on, and they're just moving right ahead. So that's very encouraging to see that. Well, cool. Any last parting comments that you want to share with us about this? I know, you just said a few things. We're going to wrap this up here. We don't want to make it too long, but I want people to be interested. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments down below, and I can certainly forward them over to Jarrod and see if he can answer those for us. But do you have any parting things you'd like to say, Jarrod?
A point of view of somebody who is looking to go to the airlines, maybe you're in that same position that Russ is in right now, or even a little further back, and you have maybe 1,000 hours or something like that. You got your first job already, or even not, even if you're still in training. The things that people have trouble with mostly transitioning, because I said that transition was hard earlier, is with instrument procedures, autopilot, and glass panel stuff. So if you've never flown a glass panel before, try to get some practice, whether it be a simulator or whatever it may be. Try to get that scan going around, have a PFD and an MFD, whether it be Garmin or whatever you have. Also be really, really familiar with your instrument procedures. And if possible, if you're a CFI, get that double I and start practicing that kind of stuff every day, and autopilot procedures, all that kind of stuff. So that's the stuff that people have a lot of trouble with in training that I've seen. Like I said, it's hard enough to jump from a Cessna to a CRJ, but there are some things that you can do to help that transition a little bit. And also, like and subscribe. Smash that like button.
Smash the like button, because this channel is going to be having lots of cool stuff, and we've got some great videos up already for CFIs or CFI wannabes. That's what this is all about. I will kind of parrot what Jarrod just was talking about. Even if you can't get it in the airplane, I knew I was going to go ahead and be with Air Wisconsin until this whole disaster with COVID happened. So I went out and bought a CRJ simulator package for X-Plane, and like 95% of it was operational. The stuff that wasn't operational really didn't matter. So you could practice the startup of the whole aircraft. You could operate everything, the autopilot, the flight management system. The whole thing was just the real deal. The whole point for me was, if I do this on a regular basis and get familiar with that aircraft while studying the systems, when I went to my transition training and got in the simulator, everything would look familiar to me. That's one way of doing it, is getting some kind of a package add-on of an aircraft that you think you might be flying. And even the Cessna 172 Garmin G1000 that's in X-Plane will get you familiar with the autopilot procedures, get you familiar with the panel, and also your instrument procedures. One of the things I love is pilotsedge.net, because those guys are real air traffic controllers, and it works with X-Plane and Flight Sim, and so you can actually go and practice your talking procedures, and you can file, and you can do all that stuff. So these are all things that Jarrod's talking about. Every little advantage you can give yourself getting ready to go in is going to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, well, I appreciate you coming out and taking some time. I mean, Jarrod literally walked in the door like 30 minutes before we started this from his flight today. Where'd you go today?
Today I went somewhere, and then I went
somewhere.
I went from Phoenix to somewhere, and then I came back to Dallas.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you go. So he's based in Dallas, flies out of Dallas, goes to Phoenix, goes to somewhere, and then back to Dallas.
Yes, very, very secret classified location.
Gotcha. So And then he walked in the door, hit me up and said, let me take a shower and I'll be right with you. And here we are doing this. And I appreciate it, Jarrod. I really do. This is obviously live right now, but I'm going to go ahead and grab it, do a little editing on it and tighten it up. And then we'll put it back out there for everybody to watch in the future.
Sounds great, Russ. Thanks for having me on, bud. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again.
You too, my friend. Shiny side up.
All right, man. You too. Take it easy. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. See ya.